You can live a life full of love and light if you just let the Spirit guide you. It's the remedy where you'll find peace, but you must let the Spirit guide you.
Who made y'all priests?
What's up, world? This is our Fafore.
What's going on, good people? This is our Oseun. Welcome back to the Who Made Y'all Priest podcast, where we talk about our spiritual journeys, our everyday life experiences, and the issues of the time from the perspective of two people who just happen to be priests. Fafore, what's going? You rocking a turtleneck, man? That's what that really looked like, is a turtleneck. You keep telling me it's something else.
No, this is like a track jacket situation.
Oh, okay,
This
okay.
ain't no turtleneck. But you know what's funny is, so back in the Gap, you know, I used to wouldn't wear a turtleneck because I was just like, you know, manly men didn't wear turtlenecks. Just coming from the inner city, you just be making up stuff in your head. So I was like, man, I ain't wearing no turtleneck. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And then you know, like one summer though, I was in that gym hitting them weights, putting that steel up. You know what I'm saying? Had got a little swole. So come around wintertime that year, I had hella turtlenecks, like in all the flavors.
You always see that. That's God, man, because you always talking about people, and then eventually you get the you started wearing turtlenecks, you started wearing hoochie daddy shorts, you started doing hip thrusts. Come on, man. Hey, you ever seen
Yeah.
that? You ever seen that Joe Rogan podcast episode where he's interviewing somebody and the dude say, "So you don't mind women that don't shave under their arms?" He was like, you like jacked ball women?" He was like, man, you getting real close. That's you, man. You getting real close.
Yeah, man. You know, hey, again, man, that's wisdom. Wisdom, you know, you go through experiences, you keep living longer, you know, you'll shift and change, you know. So turtlenecks made a comeback. Matter of fact, though, I hit the Black Friday sale. You know what I'm saying? I got me a couple of turtlenecks just here recently. So as soon as Houston get about 50, about to be up with the turtlenecks.
I'm just talking though. I really like the look of the turtleneck. I've just never worn one. But
Oh man.
I like the look of it though. I like the look and all of that. I just never gotten out there and just, went and caught me one. So I'm gonna have to do that one winter. It won't be this one though, but
That's hilarious. Hey, go ahead, man. They're gonna have some more Black Friday-ish sales before, you know, the Christmas comes. So go ahead and get you a few, man. Go to the Gap, you know, Banana Republic or something.
yeah.
You know,
Give me a
Zara.
turtleneck.
Yeah, get you a turtleneck, man. Hey, but you know what's funny is though, speaking about, you know, wisdom and going through life and things of that nature. So I had a I had a moment the other day, man, and I wanted to know if you ever had this experience. So I'm sitting on the toilet, right? And I know to some people that might be TMI, but you know, I eat good foods. You know, I'm vegan, so I go regularly. But that's the only time where I get on social media, right? So, you know, I'm sitting there on the Who Made Y'all Priest podcast page, you know what I'm saying? So check us out on Instagram
For
at
sure.
who.made.y'all.priest. So I'm in there scrolling through and I'm looking through the stories. You know how you go in the story, they just go from one story to the next, right? So I come across Kurt's story. And for those of y'all who don't know, Kurt is who does the editing for all our videos. So all the
Kurt.
special effects and all that. Yeah, Kurt, appreciate it. Because if it wasn't for Kurt, we wouldn't be on YouTube.
Right. We be struggling.
We'll be still only on Anchor and Spotify and Apple Music and all those different, or Apple Podcasts, whatever it is, all those different things, right? Where you couldn't see us, and whatever mistake, issue, error, blooper, it just would be in there,
Right.
But hey, y'all go check out season 1, because how season 1 was. Season 1 is available everywhere where podcasts can be found. So check out season 1. So anyway, I come to Kurt's story, right? And Kurt got some old school, videos in his story, right? He got Jodeci and all that type of stuff, right? So I'm going through and I come to a video, right? And I can't remember the artist's name or the name of the song, but if somebody played the song right now, I'll start singing with it, right? So I'm looking at the song or looking at the video, listening to the song, and I just had this feeling, like it took me way back to my childhood, and like it was just like, I don't know, not anxiety, but one of them kind of weird feelings that you get. And I was like, and I just was thinking to myself, like, damn, I'm old.
Right.
Like I ain't even think of it like that, but like that was a long time ago when that song was hitting. So you ever had one of them type of moments?
All the time. In neurolinguistics programming, they call it anchoring. What you felt, what it took you back, and what you felt were probably leftover emotions that you were feeling at the time, at one of the times that you heard that song. So in neurolinguistics program, that's what they call it, anchoring. And they teach that you can do that consciously. That was done to you unconsciously, but that we can anchor certain emotions and memories to certain things consciously. But yeah, that happens to me all the time. And yeah, we are old. When you can say something was to happen 25 years ago, you old. Once you hit that point and you can say such and such happened 25 years ago, you old.
Right.
Yeah, it's
And
old.
what's crazy about what you just now said, because what it took me to was a period of time of having childlike fun. I feel like that was spirit talking to me, like, man, you got to have more childlike fun. So 2024, we turning up on them trips. You know what I'm saying? Spirit done spoke. You know what I'm saying? I'm about to go ham.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's a deep thing. And like I say, it happens to us unconsciously all the time. And NLP teaches that we can do it consciously. And I first came across neurolinguistics programming in a book called The Game. If you've never heard of it, it was written by a dude who was a self-proclaimed square. He was horrible with women, and he went on this journey to learn how to professionally pick up women. So in the book, he's going from a square to being a professional pickup artist. And that was one of the things that he mentioned in his quest to conquer all of these women was neurolinguistics programming. And he used it in the book. And then it takes you back to Frogs into Princes and all of this other neurolinguistics programming texts and other books. So that's how I first came across it. But yeah, that happens all the time.
See the way my mind worked, that book, there's some information I need to understand. Like, did he start hitting the gym? So he got a little swole? Did he take his glasses off and get contacts? Did you know what I'm saying? Did his paper get real right? Or he was just the same dude? Nothing else changed. He just got that.
He considered himself below average looking. He didn't change anything about himself besides his confidence and his ability to use neurolinguistics programming for the most part. Yeah, it's a good book, man. I read it.
He might be a child of Sean Go.
And didn't know it. And didn't know it the first time. Yeah,
That's what
he
it
was a poet.
was. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't
He was a
only,
poet.
it was any.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
he was a poet and didn't know it.
Right. You know what I'm saying? He just had to wake up that monster. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So
yeah. Yeah, it was a good book. It was a good book. Like I said, I read it in prison. It's probably one of the books that they banned now. You probably can't get it down there anymore. Like the 48 Laws of Power and the Art of Seduction and all of those type of books, you can't get them in prison no more.
yeah, because dudes would be using that to game the inmates.
And the officers. That's what they worried about is manipulating the officers.
That could be it.
Yeah.
See, I went way left.
Yeah, man. You know. So what we got? So what we got for the people today, man?
Oh yeah, we got a special one. We're gonna take a deeper look into a different form of African spirituality. So thus far, through these first 5+ seasons, we've talked about Ifa. Now we're gonna talk about what I like to call the bad boy, the boogeyman of the the African spiritual community.
Right.
So you ready to get into it?
Man, let's get into it, man.
Let's go.
Abora, boy, yeah, how are you?
Boy, yeah.
How are you?
Doing well. We appreciate you taking time out of we know it's a busy schedule to come kick it with the Who Made Y'all Preach podcast. We're honored to have you.
Thank you. Same here. I'm honored as well.
She got a long name like I did when I had become the honorable minister.
Yeah.
when I first seen her, I thought she was honorable minister too. I was about to say you too. But my bad. Go ahead.
Yeah. So introduce yourself to the family. Tell us who you are. Tell us what you do. Tell us how to say your Mambo name. Tell us all about you.
Okay. I'm Larita Marie first, but my Mambo name is Manbo Akwaweewa. It's a Taino name, which means Lady of the Woods. And my Iya name is Iya Ifa Shade, which means Ifa has crowned me. Let's see, I'm an artist here in New Orleans, Louisiana. I am a Mambo priest in Ifa, healer in the community. I work with children. I used to be a special ed teacher of 11th grade. I worked with children all of my life, though, starting at 6 months old up until 18, 19 years old. I do a lot as a culture bearer in the community in New Orleans. I'm what they call a baby doll, which is part of a social aid and pleasure club here in New Orleans. So we have the Mardi Gras Indian. We have New Orleans brass bands and different things like that. The baby doll culture is part of an over 100-year culture here in the city that is about women, I say, which is for women empowerment. And doing different things in the community with work with little girls and other women and things like that. What else? I do theater, playwriting. I have my own production company where I put on my own shows or help put on other productions of upcoming playwrights. I do a little bit of everything in the theater scene: backstage management, directing, assistant stage management, acting on stage, light, sound, tech, all of those things.
Oh wow, you jack of all trades, huh? You doing everything out there in New Orleans. You doing everything. So as is customary on the Who Made Y'all Preach podcast, we always talk about our spiritual journeys. Fafore and myself, we talked about our spiritual journeys in depth here over these seasons. So tell us about your spiritual journey. Tell us how you grew up spiritually, and tell us what led you into African spirituality.
Okay. I grew up Catholic, hardcore Catholic here in New Orleans. When I say hardcore Catholic, I was in a church every day. I was one of the first altar servers in the church. I was in a youth choir. I was a junior daughter. My grandmother had me in church with her and her friends doing rosaries all of the time. My first experiences as a public speaker was in the church because I used to do poetry and also travel doing revivals and stuff, speaking publicly in church. Yeah, so hardcore Catholic family. But at some point, you know, all of those things shifted when I had an experience um, in the church. I was sexually assaulted when I was 19 years old, and the person that sexually assaulted me also went to the church with me. It was a family member's husband, and so at a time when I felt like I should have been, you know, felt protected, felt loved, felt nurtured, I wasn't. They were looking at me side eye. You know, I always tell people so because I was Catholic and it was the oldest, it's the largest Catholic church, African American Catholic church in New Orleans. But the school was over 100 years old as well. So my grandfather, like I have a history of this church, right? Mm-hmm. My grandfather, everybody, he was one of the first students there, not first students, but he was a student there. They got married there. My mother got married there, baptized there, like a huge family lineage. Mm-hmm. And so everybody knew my family. I went to the school there. I was in, you know, my kindergarten teacher was still like my favorite teacher, and I would go visit there. And so what really hurt me was when I went to visit my kindergarten teacher and she wouldn't look me in my eyes. She wouldn't face me when I was trying to talk to her. Mm-hmm. And I was like, wow, this is really some deep stuff, right? Because the person who assaulted me, wife went and told lies basically and said that my little cousin, who was her daughter, caught us in the act, caught him in the act or whatever. And so word spread around church, and then it just totally basically outed me. My grandmother, they treated her like crap. My mother, you know, they treated her bad because they felt like they should have put me out of the church. Mm. So I strayed. I was like, I'm not about to go back to, you know, to this. But being a Pisces, I still needed something. Mm. I still needed some type of spirituality. So around 24, I was with a close friend of mine. Her name is Dion Haywood. Dion runs this organization called Women with a Vision. Women with a Vision is an organization that helps with, they do like work for testing people with HIV and stuff, and they would go in the hood, like where nobody would go because the people was afraid, like the hardest parts of the community. They doing HIV and AIDS advocacy, right? So I ended up meeting Dion in college when someone came and they did HIV tests, and we ended up connecting. And I remember we had like a little slumber party at her space. And I remember seeing this book called The Power of the Orishas on her bookshelf. And so I pulled the book, and everybody talking, I'm reading it. And I remember telling her, I was like, I feel like this is something I should look more into. I feel like this is something that I'm drawn to, you know. And I was 23, not even 24, but I was so 23. But 24th birthday, there was this place called Chez Vodun. It was this voodoo restaurant on North Rampart Street. And Chez Vodun had this woman named Chief Sharon. She was the owner of it. And it was a museum at the top. And then at the bottom was the restaurant. So after the restaurant, after we ate, we were able to go upstairs, and my friends treated me for my first reading, right? And so I remember the first reading, she talked about me being a child of Yamaya at the time. But what really got me was how she, like, I had never told anybody from 19, all of the things in between 19, staying at the homeless shelter and all of this stuff that happened. And so for her to call 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24 years old, and all, you know, the sexual assaults and the molestation from before that I have never shared with anyone, and she was just going. And I was just like, okay, this is this is like some real shit. You know what I'm saying? Like I need to get more into this. But then Katrina hit when I was 25. And so looking, I kind of did everything myself. No one told me back then, you know, the mistakes. Oh, I'm a child of Oshun. Because then at some point, I was told I was a child of Oshun by this Santero, right? Oh, I'm a child of Oshun. So I put up a little Oshun shrine, not knowing I should have had an ancestor shrine first, you know. But I go to Atlanta after Katrina, and I, you know, like I said, I'm doing things on my own, and you know, end up moving back here. It wasn't until I moved back here that I found someone in Atlanta who was like, hey, I can, his name was Born Divine, give thanks. So we drove to Atlanta, and this was like MySpace days. So we drove to Atlanta. He showed us how to read shells. He showed us how to set up an Egun shrine, because at the time too, my Oshun shrine caught on fire. And I was like, what the hell? Why the hell? You know, so we go to Atlanta. He teaches us how to set up an Egun shrine, how to read shells and certain prayers, how to honor Ori. And I remember going back and setting up my ancestor shrine and reading my shells and stuff for myself. Now this is like in 2000, I would say probably 2006, 7 that I'm doing this. So still hadn't found a teacher yet, right? But realizing how me honoring my ancestors, things started coming up, like more stuff with my trauma that started coming up, but also dreams are getting more intense with certain ancestors. You know what I'm saying? Like, prime example, I remember, I love sharing this story. So I remember when I was staying in my apartment, and I would, you know, read every day, you know, what my day gonna be like, is my day gonna be good, and all of this stuff in my ancestor shrine. And so I remember one day asking, and I was taught to always, of course, ask, is everything blessed with the shrine first? So this particular day, it came up no. So I'm like, no. But, you know, at some point you learn to follow your intuition and that inner voice, right? So I'm asking, okay, do you need a pipe? And it's like, yeah, okay, spirit want a pipe. And I remember my grandmother's father, August Pichon, I asked, I was like, okay, Grandpa Pichon, is it you who want a pipe? And it was like, yeah, I want this pipe. Okay. So I asked, you know, should I get like a corncob pipe? Because it was something that I knew I had easy access to. He said no, right? But my butt still put it on the shrine, right? So I remember going back like a day or two later, asking about, is everything blessed? And they're like, no. And I was like, why? And I go, oh, is it the corncob pipe? And he was like, yeah. I was like, so you want me to take it off? So you're like, yeah, take the pipe off. All right, cool. Take the pipe off. I was working in the French Quarter, so I could walk from my house to the French Quarter. And then when I was getting off, something was like, go down the street. So I go down the street, and there's this antique shop on Decatur, and Spirit says, go in. So I'm like, go in. All right, I'm gonna go in. And I'm like, I wonder, is then I hear you're gonna find my pipe here, right? So I was like, well, I don't know what to look for, Lord. Please don't let this pipe be expensive. So I go in, and I'm like, hey, do y'all have pipes? And the man is like, yeah, we have pipes. I'm like, okay. So Spirit said, go with the year grandmother was born in. I said, okay. So I go, I'm gonna look for a pipe for the year 1935, right? So I go look, and I was like, okay, can I grab this pipe? It's 1930, the one that says 1935. He's like, it's $10. First of all, I'm thanking God, because I was like thinking it was gonna be expensive as hell, because it was, you know, an antique shop in the French Quarter. So I get the pipe, and I remember my grandmother was sitting on the porch, and I got the pipe in my bag. So I said, Mama. She's like, what? I pulled out the pipe out the bag. I said, look. She said, girl, where you get that pipe from? That pipe look just like my daddy pipe. Where you get that pipe from, girl? That look exactly like the pipe I lost in Katrina. Where that pipe come from? It looked just like the pipe my daddy used to smoke. And I said, Mama, that's all I needed to know. And so till this day, the little pipe sitting in there, but I ended up getting a pipe. So I was like, oh my God, I have got to find a teacher. You know what I'm saying? Like this was like maybe 2008, 2009. So then, you know, this sister and her husband, they were doing classes, and we were going to the classes, a few of us. And so she ends up bringing at one of the classes, she ends up bringing Baba Femi and Baba Tony. They come in and she says, you know, makes these little flyers and stuff. And she's like, they're coming in, they're gonna be doing readings. I couldn't afford a reading at the time, but I wanted to go to the lecture. So a lot of y'all know Iyales or Motunumbawa, you know, she's one of my best friends. So she had got a reading from them, and she came back, yeah, you know, the reading was blah blah blah, and it was so good, and she was ready to get her hand to V5 and everything, right? So I'm like, okay. So we go to the lecture, and man, when I tell you the way this man broke down Christianity, how the word Bible means some book, like everything connecting astrology with numerology and zodiac, you know, like just connecting everything. I was just like, okay, I think I might have found my teacher. You know what I'm saying? So once Liz, it was like I was using Liz as the test person, honestly. But you know, once Liz,
I used somebody as a test person too.
You know what I'm saying? So when Liz was when Liz got her Ishe Phi and she came back, and then Baba Dare came here and they started coming, you know, I was like, okay, this is definitely something, you know, that I can do, right? And so well, for my 31st birthday, I went and got my Ishe Phi, and it's been a hell of a ride. A hell of a ride. Since then, you know, yeah. Give thanks.
Yeah, give thanks. That's a dope story.
Thank you.
That just makes me say, Oseun, I appreciate you for being my test person.
Right.
I appreciate you. You know what I'm saying? That's what brothers is for. You
know, I was willing to make that sacrifice.
I say. So, aside from you being a priest of Ifa, you are also a part of another African spiritual tradition. So, talk to us about that other African spiritual system you're a part of, and how did that come about?
So that came about through Ifa, actually, because you know, we know Ifa is about ancestral reverence, and I have ancestors who were Haitian, based off of the history of New Orleans and the connection to the Haitian Revolution that occurred. I have a 4-time great grandmother who was a Mambo. I have a 3-time great uncle who was a Ugan / Freemason, and also a great grandmother who was a Mambo, and her sister. All of these were siblings who was a Mambo as well. But I had no idea about all of this. So Ifa, it kept coming up in the reading from my godmother at the time that I needed to have a connection with the Loa. And my ancestors are like, how dare you, when we're closer, you know, throughout the transatlantic slave trade, we're closer, you know. And I'm like, well, I don't know anything. I know I have, you know, New Orleans voodoo, but I don't know nothing about no Haitian voodoo. Like, I don't know where I'm gonna get all of this from. And she was like, no, you know, you have to have that connection with the Loa. And before you even go through with your priesthood in Ifa, you have to have the connection with the Loa, you know. And so I was like, okay. And then, you know, the 2012 conference happened, which was the first conference in OIDSI. And when I get back, it comes up in my monthly. This is why I tell people monthly readings are so important and so good because of how I have grown just getting my monthly readings. But
I
it
show
came
you.
I came up in my monthly reading. It came up in my monthly reading that there was a Egun who had been trying to connect with me since childhood. Um, and that I needed to fix them red beans and rice, some chicken, and get him an ice cold beer. So I
Oh,
was
wow.
like,
Yeah.
so I was like, okay. But I felt like I had already knew who it was, right? So I'm like, I feel like this might be Tom Canute. So, I go and I fix the food and I read to see who it is, and it was Tom Canute. And then from that day, when I tell you this lady had started coming to me in my dreams stronger. I remember I had to take a quest here in New Orleans to find her grave. When I found her grave, because she died in like 1880. But get this, she died March 2nd, 1880. I was born March 2nd, 1980.
Mm.
So it was just like, okay, all right. So now it's just trying to find the person, right? Um, I moved back here in 2015, 2000, July 2015. And it was a sis named Sula, Sula. I had been telling her I had been trying to find a Mambo um, to work with in Voodoo. And so she was like, there's this Mambo who just moved here. And it's crazy because I moved back to New Orleans the same day she moved to New Orleans from New York. And so she was like, but she's out of town right now. I gave her your information. You should hear from her. So come to find out, she was in Haiti. And so January rolled around and I get a call from her. And she's like, hey, I heard that you were trying to connect with me and meet me. I was like, yes. She had a Botanica in Tremé on Dumaine Street. So I remember going to the Botanica and sitting with her. And Mambos, they use playing cards when they read. So she pulled out her playing cards. And we had a conversation. She let me know. I was like, well, I was told by spirit that I needed to be initiated by someone who comes from the same place my Haitian ancestors come from. So she explains to me that she was from Pichonville, which is like the uppity part of Haiti, southern part of Haiti. I was like, okay, I know I connected the last name Pichon with that. I know there's a connection with the Pichonville and the last name, right? And then I was like, but yeah, I don't really, I'm like, these are like the darker Haitians that, we know that the southern, the lighter skinned ones went to the southern part of Haiti. I was like, yeah. So she's like, I say, I have people, I found out that my people are from Jacmel, Port-au-Prince, Jacmel also. And so she goes, huh. She said, there it is. She said, my father's side, and I would go in Jacmel too. And I told her my family last name, and she was like, there's so many Ramones out there. Yeah. So I was like, okay, cool. So she does the reading, and she's like, they say, I got to teach you everything. I got to teach you the language. I got to teach you all of these things or whatever like that. And she's like, no. And so I explained to her, I was like, well, I have to be initiated, as a priest of Oseun and in Ifa. And I was told, she said, yes, we have to do this first. She said, we have to do this first because Loa is earthly, Orishas are heavenly. She said, there's a protocol. I cannot touch your head if you have Orisha on it already. She said, so we have to do this first. She said, especially if you're a child of Obatala, I can't put blood on your head. So I said, okay. And I remember my grandmother ended up transitioning that year. I went in 2016. My grandmother transitioned. So January, I got the reading. March, my grandmother transitioned. And I remember praying and saying, like, look, because sis was like having hard time, struggling at the time. So I was like, I got to pay for this initiation if it's supposed to be meant y'all provide a way. And I
Right.
ended up going to Haiti in June and coming out July 1st and so it went through, was out there for 2 weeks, went through a 10-day ceremony, and came back like 2 days after, 2, 3 days after my initiation. My godmother had a stroke.
Oh wow.
Wow.
Yeah. And now we were like, wow. And so during that time also, she had her stroke, and then now people who were dependent on her, they started leaving. Everybody started leaving. Me and like a few others, we were like the only ones that didn't leave. And so now, learning and all of these things, we had to take turns taking care of her. You know, yeah, that was it was interesting
Wow.
time. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So talk to us about the cosmology of Haitian Voodoo. What do the practitioners of Haitian Voodoo actually believe? Talk to us about that.
So bon Dieu is the word God in French. Bon Dieu is
Bon
God.
Dieu.
Bon Dieu, bon Dieu. Yeah. And then you have the Loa. The Loa, like, to intermediaries between God and us. So they're like angels. Or I like to say also saints. For me, growing up Catholic and being able to compare certain things, I would also say they're like saints as well, because
Hmm.
I was taught that a lot of the Loa were also human beings. Some were, most, if not, were a lot, were human beings, and so they end up becoming what we call in the Catholic faith canonized, to
Mm,
being raised as Loa as well.
Mm.
But um, I remember our first time having, and this was after my godmother had a stroke and she was trying to like give little classes and stuff. And so we were at the house and we were learning the prier. The prier are prayers and songs that you have to um, know for a ceremony and stuff, for
Hmm.
spirit to come down. So we were learning the priers and stuff. And child, we were sitting there and she pulls out the Apostles' Creed, the Our Father, and the Hail Mary.
mm,
And she's like, now y'all gotta learn this in French. And I was like, so everybody else, they grew up everything but Catholic. I think I was like the only one who grew up Catholic. I'm looking at her, I say, wait, you mean to tell me, even though I'm in Haitian voodoo, I still have to go and know all of these Haitian prayer, these Catholic prayers? And she was like, yeah. And I was like, ain't this so they actually open up sometimes with the Our Father and the Hail Mary. So it's still very, all that to say, it's still very Christian, Catholic based. Um,
Mm.
as compared to what it is in Benin. And of course, it's because of transatlantic slave trade and having to cover up certain things. So it's also very Catholic. Um, and it's also a combination of the indigenous people there. And the language, some of the songs, my name, for instance,
Mhm.
Akwaweewa, it's also Taino influenced as well. So we have Hawaiian spirits that are also considered Indians, you know, that we honor. And, you know,
Right.
I could vouch just how heavy, because I have a lot of heavy indigenous Taino spirits as well.
mm,
Um, but yeah, it's the, God, like I said, it's pretty Catholic and Christian based,
mm,
but they do honor too the um, Nago Nation, the Yoruba Nigeria part. We have the Congo Nation as
Mhm.
well. We have fiery spirits. They call Petwo. We have Rada, which are the cooler spirits. The the Rada are more ancestral indigenous spirits. The Petwo ones are more spirits that come from the Haitian Revolution, um, or elevated, spirits, which are far more fiery than the Rada spirits. But you also have certain Petuo spirits that come out of the Rada nation. So you may have like a Izili clan, right? So most people are familiar with Izili Freda, who is Rada.
Mm-hmm.
She is like connected to, if we were to say what Orisha would you compare her to, would be Oshun. And then you have Izili Danto, who is, fiery, but she's still part of that Izili clan, right? And Danto would be more connected to what we would Oya, um, and Danto is the one that they prayed to during the Haitian Revolution.
Mm.
Yeah. Mm.
That's a good piece of information because I've always heard that it was like a spirit closely associated with like Ogun.
So they did do work with Ogun too,
Mm-hmm.
but the main one was easily Danto, and you're talking about
Mm.
Okufarai. Um, because the black pig, easily Danto takes the black pig. It's easily Danto takes the black pig, right? And black pig was like, it was hugely populated during that particular time, and that was
Gotcha.
the offering that they gave her. Do you know it's damn near extinct now in Haiti because they made sure that they killed all of the black pigs after we won the Haitian Revolution?
That's
Oh
crazy.
wow.
Who
Yeah,
who who did that?
who killed them?
Mm-hmm.
The white folks that came, that was there, that they were
Mm.
battling and fighting still. Yeah, and then of course, from my understanding too, some of the more Christianized.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. That's why I asked the question.
Yeah.
It's interesting with that though, is I am eternally grateful for voodoo because that is how I got my start into African spirituality. We
Mm.
would always, hear all these things about voodoo. I didn't know what Ifa was until, Oseun told me,
Mm.
hey, I found this guy that practices Ifa. I'm like, what is that? So, but I've heard about, voodoo before. So I I was watching a YouTube video and there was a gentleman by the name of Professor James Small, and he
Mm.
was speaking, and he was talking about how uh, voodoo and Christianity were the same, because voodoo was the foundation of Christianity. And I was like,
Mm.
what, really? So I instantly started, researching voodoo. And I have a friend who's Haitian. Her
Mm.
parents are from Haiti. So I got to asking about that, like, hey, what do you know about voodoo? And it was just like, mm-mm.
Mhm.
Like, we don't talk about it. Mm-mm, we don't do that. I'm
Mhm.
like, your parents don't practice voodoo? Mm-mm, no, no. I was like, you got anybody who practice voodoo? Yeah, I might have a relative, but I don't know. We don't talk about it. I was
Mhm.
like, hey, ask your parents. No, we don't even talk about it. None of that. Mm-mm. And it was through that conversation, right? I was like, man, there's something to this voodoo thing. And then I just really started studying it. And at the time, me studying voodoo, at the same time, Awo Sheun was looking into just various different spiritual traditions in West Africa,
Mhm.
particularly like the Akan tribe, and we were comparing notes. So it was on the heels of that that then he meets, Baba Femi, and then from then, you know, um, I came in, and the rest is history. So I am greatly appreciative to Voodoo.
Mhm.
Right.
Um, Now, being that you're from New Orleans,
Mhm.
for me, there's like this assumption because, I've been to New Orleans multiple times and I don't know, I don't know, you have voodoo tours and all this type of stuff going on that they advertise for New Orleans. So I was always under the impression that like voodoo is something that's practiced, widely throughout New Orleans,
Yeah.
or Louisiana in general. Is that the case? Is that something that, is widely accepted and widely practiced? How's that in New Orleans?
No, and it's crazy how it's growing up. It's sort of like your friend from Haiti. It's also sort of like when you approach a Nigerian and be like, I'm into
Right.
Ifa, and they do the same thing. It's the same thing here when it came to voodoo. Now it seems like, because of that awakening, that people are starting to want to connect with it again.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember at one time pulling out Florida water in front of my grandmother. And when I tell you, she act like she saw the devil herself when I pulled it out, and she was like, mm-mm. I was like, Mama, is this Florida? She knew what it was though, which is like, damn, you know what this is, but you sitting up here freaking out because I pulled it out, you
Right.
know. Um, like, yeah, no, it's definitely not a thing. It's very taboo. Now, with most people, like, you have to go to like the little parishes outside of New Orleans to actually, that's where it's really deep at. You know what I'm saying? Like the Homer
Mm.
Thibodeau parts of Louisiana and things like that. But in New Orleans, like, it's like, no, and I want to
Mm.
say it probably, but even when Marie Laveau was still alive, it was still it was done more out in the open, but it was still not really talked about, you know.
Mm.
In my family, till this day, I still get side eyed. I get side eyed like a mother. I have cousins now who reaching out to me like, cuz I want to, connect with that side of the family and stuff like that. So we've been giving, like ceremonies and stuff. And I have cousins, they daddy who like the same age as my mama and them. They like, why you sitting up there calling her? Larita is doing that voodoo stuff and blah blah blah. I have it's just like I had a cousin about 3-4 years ago. I remember clicking out on her because we were sitting down and she was like, um, I can't believe you're doing that voodoo stuff and it's evil and all of this stuff. And I was like, you do realize that I still have to say the Hail Mary. I still have to say this. Voodoo means spirit or God. Like I just was like,
Right.
bro, it's not. Like, stop. Get off that Hollywood shit. My bad. But like, just stop. Like, y'all,
Mm-hmm.
I clicked out. I did. But
Right.
I have a cousin, his like the cousin who wants to learn. Her daddy is like completely against it, but yet no want to hit me up about the history and the mambo that I told you, our 4-time great grandmother. He wants to know more about her, and I'm like, everything about her is voodoo, my nigga. Everything about her is voodoo. Everything that you hate, and like literally. So I get where he's coming from because his daughter ended up telling me the story as to why he doesn't, he doesn't agree with it. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Like, he had a bad experience from my great great grandmother, but
Mm.
and that's the case even when I think about your friend in Haiti. It's always a story like that. It's always, because I know a lot of Haitians too who don't practice. And it's always a story about so and so, they had a bad experience, or somebody in a family who was the matriarch or the patriarch had a bad experience, and then it just stopped. And now we're just
Right.
Christian. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, like, you talked about, you know, through the transatlantic slave trade and how, you had people in Haiti that came over here, and you got relatives still back there, or, the lineage goes back there. And obviously being, Black or African American, we have lineage to, Africa, specifically West and Central Africa. So, those of us here, we're pretty much a mixture of a whole lot of different things.
Mm-hmm.
And with that comes a whole lot of different, spiritual traditions. I got a reading by a medium over a
Mm-hmm.
year ago. And in the reading, was saying to me about was asking me did I have family in Louisiana, and I was like, not to my knowledge. And then asked about West Africa, and I was or Benin specifically, and I was like, oh yeah. According to DNA test, a sizable portion of my DNA goes there. And it was like, well, you have ancestors here. They're saying that you need to also practice voodoo, and so I got to thinking about that, like as I'm coming more and more and meeting different people that are associated with African spirituality, you see that more and more where you see people are practicing multiple different traditions, whether it's like Lukumi and or and being scratch palo or Ifa and voodoo and just different mixtures. And it makes sense that you would have to practice multiple things, especially because in every family there's not going to be a lot of people in one family who are practicing African spirituality. So kind of that burden does kind of get lumped on the couple of those who have actually made the decision to go back to their roots. So you mentioned earlier about this protocol in with Ifa and Vodun. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Specifically, you were saying about Crown Dorisha. Does that just Crown Dorisha, or does that apply to being like a priest of Ifa only? Like, talk a little bit more about how that works. If somebody wanted to be a part of, both.
So I come from a very old school run society that how my grandmother, how my man does it, my mommy. So what I was told was that the only way she would be able to touch my head is if it doesn't have Orisha sitting on it because of the hierarchy of the Orishas compared to the Loa. The Loa are considered more earthly. Um, Again, like I, was told that, some Loa were human beings before they actually became Loa. So it's like kind of this canonization type thing. And because of the hierarchy with Orisha, I needed to get the Loa first. She said that, especially me being a child of Obatala and the blood part, that wouldn't work. But I have seen some people go through the process backwards, and she would be like, it's either because it came up a certain way in their reading or the person's trying to take their money. If they had Orisha first and then they were going to make Mambo Ugan, because she was like, the closest that she would do with a person who already has their Orishas first is Unsi. And it basically, you would go through a Savis Tet, which is like the same as I would say getting your Ishefa in Ifa. And becoming an Unsi is like becoming an Aborisha, but also kind of connected to like Sode as well,
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, is that just Orisha? But what if you were a priest of Ifa and was not an
Oh no,
Orisha
so yeah,
priest?
it's Ifa as well.
Oh,
Babalawo
okay.
and Ifa. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in all likelihood, Fafore and myself, according to your lineage, we wouldn't be able to.
Right. According to my lineage, they wouldn't be able to touch your head. It would have to be something as close as like Unsi. You could still go through Kanzo. Kanzo is the same as like Itefa, whatever. Or going through the Jevo, which is like Igbodu. You could still sit, but the closest you would be able to do is Unsi.
which is like
maybe
hand to be
maybe
fine and soul day.
yeah, maybe
Mm-hmm.
Sukwen. Yeah,
And what I ain't even gonna try to say that name or that
Sukwen.
word. So what's that?
Sukwen Mambo Ogan Mambo Sukwen is they're a priest that are part of the Song lineage, but they can't initiate anyone else, but they are priests of their household. Like you're priest of your Lawaz and your family, you know.
Oh, I could do that. So then,
Yeah.
but I'd still technically be a priest though.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. I could do that. Cause see, I also I mean I've been like you talked about the importance of monthly readings. You know, we've been getting monthly readings pretty much since we got our hand to V5.
Mm-hmm.
And then as we become priests, we started doing our own. But like once or twice a year, you know, I'll go, you know, get a reading from someone outside of me. And usually, you know, it's a medium
Mm-hmm.
just because it's just something different. So I was told recently that by another one, it had brought up me being initiated into something that was very focused on like ancestral spirits. Like, and so my question I asked was like Vodun, and he was like, yes. But what was interesting though is that I didn't have any E-days or anything on. He knew that I was a child of Shango
Mm-hmm.
and
Okay.
said that the next initiation though had to be Shango.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess it really doesn't matter because I'm already a priest of Ifa anyway. So I would have to do Shango first, and then you know have to go at some other time look into that route of voodoo. And I asked about going to Benin or you know to Haiti, and it said Haiti, which lets me know because I know you know a little bit about the cosmology. I mean, oh, I need me some ass kicking spirits. Yeah.
Right.
Let me tell you. Well, definitely some ass kicking spirits.
Yeah, yeah,
Definitely some ass kicking spirits.
Right.
yeah. So when I do that, y'all don't mess with me.
Yes.
Y'all, y'all gonna catch a fade.
All right.
So, you know, speaking of which, so African spirituality as a whole gets a bad rap of being demonic and evil and all this bad stuff, right? Everything negative that you can think of. But I would say voodoo is like African spirituality public enemy number one.
It
Right.
really is.
And I have to admit, you know what I'm saying? I'm gonna go ahead and call myself on the carpet that I will Fafore. So I like to play on people's, well, I not play. I like to use people's ignorance to my benefit at times. So there's been a couple of times where I've gone, you know, to the airport because you know I travel a lot, and for the most part, I always carry, you know, my little juju bag
Mm-hmm.
in my book bag that I carry with me onto the plane. So every time they get to going in there and wanting to pull out my juju bag, and I'll be like, I'll grab it, I'll try to grab it, take it out, whatever. And they're like, what is it? And I always just say, oh, I practice voodoo. Because I know if I say that, then they'll be like,
They're gonna leave you
oh,
alone. They're gonna leave you alone.
yeah, I'm gonna leave that alone. You go
They,
ahead and grab that, right?
Right.
And I do it all the time. And I ain't gonna lie, I don't even feel bad because I'll be like, yo, I don't want people touching my stuff like that, you know.
I have no
And
problems with my neighbors.
so yeah, I straight out call it out every time, like, yeah, I practice voodoo. They'd be like, and I always have my some Alekes on too, just to really play it up, like,
Right.
check me. You know what I'm saying? They be like, ooh, you know. So with that, so give us some history on how voodoo became public enemy number one. Like, why is that the case? Why is it voodoo? Why not E5? Why not condom blade? Why
So
not look at me?
the only successful revolution, the Haitian Revolution, I would say would be the first time it got real publicized as a bad rep. Because it kind of always did, it was even a thing when they were practicing, on their plantations and stuff in Haiti. But you literally had a Mambo and a Ugan do rituals before the revolution occurred. You had Boukman, who was a Jamaican, but then came to Haiti, and Cecile Fatiman, who was a Mambo. And where we talk about the black pig, and they sacrificed the black pig for Izili Danto. They did work with Ogun, and the rest is fucking history. They won. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
From what I've even heard, is that like they have like writings where Napoleon Bonaparte was like saying at one point we weren't even fighting men. Like they were people coming up out of the graves, and they was just like overpopulated. They had Egun ride with them and everything. You know what I'm saying? Like the Haitian Revolution won, Then there was a case in 1864. This 12-year-old girl was okay. So when we also talk about the myths of cannibalism and all of that stuff with voodoo, I would say that it probably came from a real situation that happened in 1864 in Haiti, where this 12-year-old girl was used as a sacrifice, and they ate her. It was this woman named her name was Jean. I think it was like Jean Pele or something like that. And something was going on with her brother, and so she told the brother that she would help him out. And she went to these two Ugans, Ugan and a Mambo, and they was like, well, you need to have you need to sacrifice a goat without horns. And so they took this as a human sacrifice. So they decided to use her 12-year-old niece. So her sister and the little girl come, and the Ugans, they kidnap the little girl. They put her underneath the shrine. She's dead for some days. They end up beheading her, doing all kind of stuff, and then they eat her. And then the president at the time, I think it was like 13 people at some point that was involved, but they all practiced voodoo. And they ended up being murdered in front of the place. Of course, this white British man took that shit and was like, yeah, see, this is why we say it's bad, and ran with it. And so word got around. So I would say that would be the second, right? And then you have this film called Wanga that came out. I think Wanga came out 1934, 1934. Anyway, Wanga came out, and it's this film that takes place in Haiti, right? And it's about this mulatto chick named Killy Gordon. Killy and is in love with this man named Andrew or Andy or something, and he's this white boy plantation owner nearby. He don't want to marry her because of the one drop rule. So he ended up marrying this chick Eve, and she gets pissed. So she basically turns to voodoo to get him and to kill him, right? But what happened is she gets this charm of death called the Wanga charm, but the Wanga charm, I guess it didn't work. So she ends up summoning 13 zombies, and then the 13 zombies put Eve into this trance, and she's able to kill her or whatever, So that was like the 19. And then you got Robert Talent. Robert Talent is this white boy from New Orleans. All of his books are in gift shops in New Orleans. I remember the first time I saw his book, I was working at W.H. Smith gift shop at the Hyatt. and he has this book called New Orleans Voodoo and the Voodoo Queen. So he's obsessed with Marie Laveau, and so he writes these books about New Orleans voodoo and people. He ended up becoming a real popular writer in his day, right? And so people just took his word as gold, you know, um, for as voodoo. So he's the one talking about in his book orgies, cannibalism, the zombies and all of that stuff. And then of course, from my understanding too, during that time, Hollywood used his book a lot as reference. So now you also have all of these stereotypes in Hollywood. Chucky was a voodoo, that's how he ended up being in the doll. You got the
Chucky
serpent
was
and the
cold.
rainbow.
Right.
Yeah. The serpent and the rainbow. Then American Horror Story come out with their stuff. It's just like,
Yeah.
What was Chucky's name? Was it
Bob Lee, Charles Lee Ray?
yes, Charles Lee Ray. And then he calling on Dambala.
Yeah,
Anyway,
Charles Lee Ray.
yeah.
I remember being young watching Chucky and so badly wanted to be able to say what that dude said to get in that doll. I was like, man, I need to be able to say that.
I was into that scene too. I was definitely into the scene.
I thought that was cold.
Yeah. Yeah, that was yeah. I still think about that. I still feel like I know what he said, but yeah, man, that's a that was a deep scene. I was like, man, I need to be able to do that. Yeah.
So you say he actually called on an actual spirit, voodoo spirit.
I feel like I remember him saying Dambala in the movie, but everybody called anyway. That is one of the most popular luas. So they're gonna
Yeah. So we've already established that you are a priest in both traditions, in both Ifa and Vodou. Talk to us about some of the similarities and the differences between the two traditions for those people who are unfamiliar.
What most people don't know is that in Haitian Voodoo, we still honor some, like Shango is a major Orisha that we honor in Vodou, Obatala, Olokun. It's ancestral reverence on both ends. It's when it comes to having to take care of shrines and giving food offerings and different things like that, it's the same thing. Sometimes a lot of the similarities because of the languages are different. So like you'll have a fete in Haitian Vodou, you'll have a bembe in Ifa, you have a Seves Tete in Haitian Vodou, you have Ishefa in Ifa, you have Unsi in Vodou, you have Aborisha or Sode in Ifa, you have a Supuen, you have Mambo Akwaweewa Supuen in Haitian Vodou. In Ifa, you have a Olorisha. In Haitian Vodou, you have Mambo Akwaweewa Asogwe. In Ifa, you have a Ianifa or Babalawo. What else? Florida water goes all around.
Right.
Serving spirits just being, the dedication, the discipline, all of those things are the same. You have people who are traditional and non-traditional. I don't know. I can only go by my experiences with it. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, and how I've learned to compare myself. Oh, okay, this is that in any file or whatever.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You heard what she said though about Shango, which about how they have Shango even in Voodoo, which make Sean go like the Michael Jordan of Orisha,
Because
basically.
you think a lot of people think that oh, the Loas are different. Oh, but yeah, even with that, so like easily Freda is the same energy as Oshun. Then you have Ogu Farai is the same type of energy as Ogun. Easily Freda,
Mm-hmm.
Easily Dantor, same type of energy as Oya, but they do honor Oya too in Vodou as well. So you have a lot of the that energy has crossed through the diaspora though. Those
Mm-hmm.
different energies, the spirit of the
Right.
river and all of those things too.
Right.
Mm.
Yeah.
Right. Now we seem to be making a differentiation between Haitian voodoo, New Orleans voodoo,
Oh God.
and traditional voodoo that would have come out of Benin. Uh, what are some of the differences, at least between Haitian voodoo and traditional or so-called traditional voodoo that comes out of Benin? What are some of the differences between
So
those?
from my understanding, in Benin, their creator is Mawulisa or Mawu and Lisa, or divine twins that were children of Nana Boruku. Um, and they are the creators. In Haitian Vodou, Bon Dieu, God is the creator, and it's still very Christian
Mm,
in the way we honor and worship, as compared to what it is in Benin, But of course, because historically they homemade Haitian, in Haiti, they had a lot of slaves that came from Dahomey, which is Benin. I have a goon that was fine, you know what I'm saying? And fine is the language. So a lot of the stuff is part of the fine language as well. So that's what's the good, interesting thing about um, the Haitian Creole language and the prayers and stuff that we have to learn. It's a combination with all of that, the fine language, the French, the Taino, you
mm,
know. But yeah. That's
yeah. So you are initiated into Haitian Vodou, but you
right.
live in New Orleans.
Correct.
So how different or how similar is the way that you practice Haitian Voodoo and the way that it's actually practiced in Haiti?
Say that again.
So how different or how similar is the way that you practice Haitian Voodoo here in the States as opposed to how it's practiced in Haiti?
um so we were taught to so I'm also into Louisiana voodoo or New Orleans voodoo.
Mm,
Mm.
Um, so the way we do Haitian voodoo as compared to here, my godmother, the lady that I was taught, and my brother, who is my elder, who is also Haitian, we do the things in Haitian voodoo the way the Haitians do it.
mm,
But in Louisiana voodoo, we do it's a combination of honoring the Orishas and the Loa. Um, it's a combination of
Mm.
um, Christian gospel songs and songs to the Loa and or the Orishas.
mm,
Mm.
Um, because in Louisiana, plantation voodoo, it's how the ancestors had to do what they needed to do, the best way they knew how, and honoring spirits, but knowing that there were Orishas and Loa and Saint Anne or Saint
right.
Joseph,
Mm,
yeah.
right. Yeah.
Um, so that's the difference, and that's what we do in Louisiana voodoo.
Mm,
um it's kind of like that gumbo mixing pot of all of it,
mm-hmm,
you know
mm-hmm.
yeah.
I'm sure you've cleared up some things for people, especially for me, because I've heard the different New Orleans voodoo, Haitian voodoo,
Yeah.
traditional voodoo. I've heard all of these different things, and I've always wanted to know what what the differences were, what the similarities were. So yeah, you cleared up a few things for me.
Yeah, you know. And I'm just recently, man, I'm just recently getting more into the Louisiana, New Orleans. Like I've always been drawn to that part as a child. I ain't gonna lie. And when I think about it now, um, it probably was something that was always calling me because I remember as a little girl, we had this book called The Black Book, right? The Black Book is this book that has like history from before the transatlantic slave trade in Africa, then us crossing during the transatlantic slave trade. It talks about, and the reason why I remember falling in love with the book is because I've always been a child always been into theater and stuff. So the parts where they were talking about the poems and the songs that they used to sing through minstrel shows and stuff is what drew me. But then there was this whole section in the book about New Orleans voodoo and New Orleans cemeteries. And they talk about Marie Laveau. I remember being like 7, 8, like not 7, 8. I'm lying, girl. What you talking? In seventh or eighth grade. Seventh or eighth grade. And just like being completely obsessed because I've always been obsessed with our cemeteries. And just drawn to Marie Laveau, not even knowing why back then, right? But I remember doing my first little voodoo. They had this little boy named Ashton Gray who went to my church. I remember making a little doll and all kind of stuff back then. But I had always been drawn to it. All that to say, but
right, yeah.
But now that I've reconnected with my brother Roby, he's the one that I went through Kanzo with in Haiti, but he gives tours here. He's also initiated in plantation voodoo and Louisiana voodoo. So we'll do, because we're the only two initiated as Mambo and Ugan in Haitian voodoo. We'll do our things, but I found too that that pull and that connection where I can do both EI and Mambo is through plantation Louisiana voodoo.
Yeah, and that's a good segue into my next question, because asking you about how do you balance the responsibilities between who you are in Voodoo and who you are in Ifa. So how do you balance those responsibilities? Is it difficult, or is it something that's easy because they're so similar?
Oh my God. No, at first it was difficult. At first I was trying because, when I came home with my spirits, my wives, I was told Danto can't go with Freda. They're going also with how energetically they get along, that whole thing. So it's like, no, one got to be separated from here. You a child of Obatala. You got cool stuff. So you got to make sure that your hot spirits are not as close to your cool orishas and different. I remember one time I had, I want to say it was my Danto, and it came up in a reading. There was like, Obatala energy is like not feeling this hotness. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, let me switch things around. So just like in E5, we have certain prayer days, right, for the Loa. So what I started doing, which helps, is I would do my my offerings and my prayers to my orishas, because that's what I knew first, to my orishas on their days. So even following the Ita Dogun and different things like that. And on Sundays is the day that you can honor and serve the Loas any day. So Sundays was my Egun and my Loa days, where I would light my Loas up. I would, feed them and do my stuff with them. So Sundays and Saturdays would be my days for them. And then everything else was like the orishas and different things like that. when it came to, I'm still trying to, uh, actually, I feel like I've just started to find that balance with the voodoo and the orishas, and give thanks to Ruby for that. You know, because now I have been doing a lot more work, my voodoo side, and a lot more work with my Haitian voodoo side with Ruby as a mambo. Because before it was just always a lot of Ifa stuff. But again, too, my godmother was sick,
Right.
and now she's not here anymore. So um and I don't trust everybody. So it's just like, you
Right.
know what I'm saying? But finding that balance, and it also, I give thanks for my connection with my spirits. So they'll let me know, okay, you need to focus on this. So it's also about paying attention and intuition and trusting and all of that too.
Right.
You know. But yeah, Saturdays and Sundays are usually my days that I honor my Loa, and then I'll have my other days with the Orishas and stuff. And then my mambo, she ain't gonna let me, go out too long, So she always got me doing stuff voodoo wise.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
My
Mm-hmm.
mambo is in my egoon. Let me clear that up. My
Yeah.
egoon, that's the mambo. Yeah.
Ashe, Ashe.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we would be remiss if we talked about voodoo, especially with someone from New Orleans, if we didn't talk about someone who is a staple in the community. I remember years ago, I think I had I'm pretty sure I had my hand to V5. Actually, I did. I had my hand to V5 at the time. This was before priesthood. And I went to New Orleans, and I've been in New Orleans multiple times, but I was like, this time I'm gonna actually go somewhere other than French Quarter, because I've been to Mardi Gras a couple of times. So I did just tourist stuff, right? So it was, went on the Voodoo tour, and then touring all the grave sites and all that. And one person who I heard mentioned over and over and over again, somebody who I had read about when I started my studies in the Voodoo, was Marie Laveau.
Mm.
And the city of New Orleans and some inhabitants of New Orleans is making a lot of money off of voodoo related things using her name and what I assume is her likeness, because there's so much mystery, around who she was and that whole nine. But you happen to actually be a blood relative of Marie Laveau.
Mm-hmm.
So what could you tell us about Marie Laveau?
Marie Catherine Lavo. Um, so she was an advocate. She was an herbalist. Like, she helped cure a lot of people who with yellow fever during the pandemic here in New Orleans during that big outbreak. You had the priest, the Archbishop of St. Louis Cathedral, literally like calling on her to come and go with him to say prayers and things like that to help heal a lot of the people with yellow fever. A lot of like sometimes the doctors didn't even know what to do. You know what I'm saying? So she was the one that was called upon. She was well respected by whites and blacks also, what a lot of people don't know is she was also training and doing work with what we have was the Seven Sisters, who were also voodoo priestesses here in New Orleans, from out of Algiers, I believe. She loved children. She had many children herself, but a lot of them didn't survive into adulthood. But she had a lot of orphans that she took in. So even when she was on her deathbed, when she was in her 80s, like she had a lot of orphans that were still living with her when she had dementia. She ended up having dementia when she died. She had a daughter named Marie Laveau II. So when we also talk about Placage, but she hates that anyway. people be like, oh, they got this whole obsession with the placage system here in New Orleans, which is like a tradition that came from Haiti here. And it's basically a Frenchman and who would fall for this young mulatto quadroon young girl, which is also where the quadroon balls come from. But you had the matriarch of the family, and the matriarch of the family would basically arrange for this courtship to happen, right?
Mm.
Between this daughter, granddaughter, or niece of hers and this Frenchman. And it will be promised to go, if it's a boy, you're going to go to France and he's going to study and he's going to become, this well, educated young man. If it's a girl, she's probably going to go through the same thing. So, um, some people say that she was part of that system because her mother was a mulatto woman, a free woman, and her father, whose name was Charles Trudeau Lavo, he was an acting mayor at the time of New Orleans when around the time when she was born and stuff like that. But she really wasn't in part of the placage system because people want to romanticize that. Because if she was, she wouldn't have had to work so hard as a hairdresser and have clients, which is how she got her house in the French Quarter, not because she was the daughter of this man. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
She ended up marrying this dude, Paris, from who also had Haitian bloodline in St. Louis Cathedral. A lot of people treat her as a Loa as well, and she's not a Loa. She's an ancestor, not a Loa. So, can you imagine too energetically what that is doing, or what that would be doing to her? Anyway, that's a whole nother subject. But yeah, she's an ancestor, and it just drives me crazy how many people tend to, use that.
Yeah, they deify her. Yeah.
Yeah, and she's an ancestor. She's an Egun. Now, if you want to do that, let's go through the proper thing and the proper ways to do that. Because since we know that some Loa were real people, saints were real people, but go through the right process of doing it. Nobody's gone through the right process of doing it.
Right.
So
let's speak of
imagine
that,
if you was
because
an ancestor and somebody's constantly pulling on you as a deity. Can you imagine what that would do to you on that side of all of these people just pulling at you and at your spirit, and all you're trying to do is rest?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so let's talk about that a little bit, because there are people who have Marie Laveau altars that probably aren't blood relatives of Marie Laveau. So it's, you said go through the proper process. So what it sounds like you're saying is that because she's an Egun, if you're not a blood relative of hers, are you saying then you should not have an altar to her?
No, I'm not saying that, because when you think about it, when you want to have certain energy of certain people who were entertainers, and you're an entertainer, or musicians, and you're a musician, and you put up a shrine, but you're not deifying them. You're honoring them still as an ancestor. You know what I'm saying? That's not it. These are people literally who, like, there's literally a white lady here in New Orleans right now who has said the shrine that she has created for Marie Laveau and the statue that she has created is honoring her as a Loa, and they did the work to honor her as a Loa. No, that's what I'm talking about. People who are literally sitting up here, you know what I'm saying? Like marking on her graves and doing all these things. Like, no. Egun, yes. Loa, no.
Yeah. Fafore.
Mm.
That's it.
Ain't gonna
Yeah,
guess. Low
this was a beautiful episode. This was a beautiful episode. I've never looked into um voodoo. I've never looked into that. I've always myself, I'm sure due to socialization, viewed voodoo as
Mhm.
darker than say like Ifa. And Palo also, I viewed that as darker uh, than
They
Ifa.
got it. I mean, and there's like left hand work and different things like that. There's bokars and in Haitian Vodou, you know, they are considered like the wizards, and left hand work is definitely a thing
Mm,
out there. But I would say it's all about character, right? It's when we talk about what Iwapele really is. You got people who are good and bad in everything. I'm sure they got people who are babalawos and Ianifas that's doing not so good stuff too. You
right.
know, it's
Mm,
just
Mm-hmm.
like you said, you know, voodoo got the rap for it because again, we the only successful revolution, slave revolt, occurred in Haiti and voodoo was involved.
right.
So of course they're gonna say
Mm-hmm.
this isn't good, you know. Um, you know, and I had to learn that too. I'm not gonna lie, I grew up thinking the same things,
Mm,
you know, but once I started it something that means God, it can't, if we know what the concept of God is, it can't be something bad. But that goes to show you that people just go by what they're taught, learn behavior, and they don't challenge their parents, they
mm,
don't challenge their schools, they stay programmed. You know what I'm saying?
mm,
Mentally, until you decide to go out and do the research yourself,
right.
you know, because ain't no way in the world something dark and evil. And if we're talking about Christianity not being dark and evil, we're gonna be saying the Hail Mary and our Father.
Right. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And we're not gonna be open up to prayers with that. Like
Right.
seriously, you know?
Right.
And
Yeah.
they believe the same thing when it comes to, and if you're doing this work just because somebody stepped on your foot, just because she's sleeping with your man, that shit is still gonna fall back on you.
Mm-hmm.
So you could throw at people all day, like they say, but know that if you are not validated for the throwing, it will come back on you because Loa still is about good. They're still about good and seeing the good. They want to see you elevate. They want to see you grow. They want to see all of those things. They want to make sure that you're protected and safe.
Mm-hmm.
But please make sure that your character is in alignment with when you're doing this work. Because if you're not validated, be assured that it will fall on you.
Mm.
Ashe.
Because at the end of the day, it's all about character. It's all
Right.
about growth. It's all about love. It's all about goodness.
Mm.
Ashe.
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So Mambo, you know what? I'm just gonna
You trying to
go
say my name?
E for Sade, because I know
No,
that.
it's easy. Come on, sign it out.
Okay. Ak,
Wa. It literally looks
wa,
like it says, like it's pronounced. Akwaweewa. Wee. Like we with the two E's. Wee.
I got it now.
Akwaweewa.
Yeah, Akwaweewa. Yeah.
Yes.
Hey, Manbo Akwaweewa. You know what? We appreciate you for being a great God sister. You know,
Oh,
coming on here and blessing your God brothers with all this good game. You know, blessing the people with all this good information. You know what I'm
okay.
saying? Hey, I hope y'all learned something. Man, voodoo is not Chucky.
Right.
It is not
You know
Chucky.
what I'm saying? It's not Chucky. It's not evil, right? You know, none of these systems are evil. You got some evil people practicing them, granted. But, you know, the systems aren't inherently bad. They're all good, right? It's all meant for good, right? It's all
Right.
good meant for discovering yourself, right? And using the energies to propel us all forward. So we hope y'all learned something today. And we appreciate y'all for always rocking with us. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, drop us a comment, and then just keep rocking with us every week. We love y'all. We appreciate y'all. And always remember, life is for the living. Live life out loud and on purpose. Until next week, peace.
Peace.